Hello, and thanks for joining us for Wrangell Mountain Air's quick virtual peek into the vast backcountry of Wrangell St. Elias National Park. Of course, a quick peek is just that when you're talking about Wrangell St. Elias Park. At over twice the size of America's second largest park, Denali, and equal to 6 Yellowstones, it's a little difficult to give the Wrangells justice on a small screen, but we'll give it a shot. Wrangell St. Elias includes 9 of the 16 highest peaks in the U.S., the largest concentration of mountains over 14,000 feet in North America, as well as the most extensive glacier system in the country. And just to stick with the superlatives, nearby Mount Logan, Canada's tallest peak at 19,850 feet, 6,050 meters, and its neighbor Mount St. Elias, the second tallest peak in the U.S., loom over the largest sheet of ice on the planet outside the poles, the Bagley Icefield, 128 miles in length. And of course, all those glaciers feed a web of wilderness rivers hundreds of miles long. It's a land of indescribable beauty and one of the least visited national parks in the country. So, it's wildly huge, overwhelmingly beautiful, uncrowded, and hard to portray, but we'll do our best. And if what you see here tickles your fancy, we'll be happy to get you out there in person. Most of the 13.2 million acres of Wrangell St. Elias Park are accessible only by air. And for 18 years, Wrangell Mountain Air has been providing that access to most of the park's backcountry explorers. Our base in McCarthy, deep in the park at the end of the road, is the perfect jumping-off spot, and its unique location and colorful history make it worthy of a visit for its own sake. Wrangell Mountain Air operates a fleet of 6 airplanes, perfectly tailored to their backcountry and mountain flying tasks, and flown by a seasoned crew of pilots who earned their gray hair through experience, not fright. With well over 100 years of Alaska flying among 5 of us, we're attracted to the Wrangells for the same reason you are. We are very proud of our ability to deliver you to some of the Earth's most spectacular places, but even more proud of how safely we do it. Now you may ask, if this park is so amazing, how come nobody's there? It's true that it is off Alaska's beaten path. Looking at a map of Alaska, Wrangell St. Elias pretty well fills up the bottom right corner of the state, excluding the Panhandle, well east of the traveled corridor from Anchorage through Denali to Fairbanks. As a result, it does take a little extra gumption to make it all the way to McCarthy, in the heart of the park. But there are lots of very good travel options involving driving, flying, or a combination of both. You can even throw a beautiful ferry ride via Valdez into the mix. Basically, the highways are fine from anywhere in the state until you arrive at the small town of Chitina on the Copper River along the park's western boundary. For reference, Anchorage to Chitina is about a 5-hour drive. From Chitina, many visitors fly on one of our 3 daily scheduled flights, rather than drive the definitely primitive road the last 60 miles to McCarthy. But given the right vehicle, it is a beautiful drive. If you'd prefer to avoid driving at all, we do offer charter air service from anywhere in the state. Essentially, if you're inclined toward being one of a few thousand annual visitors to one of the last great corners of the earth, rather than joining a 500,000 or so along the Cruise Tour Trail, you'll find our remote location well worth the little bit of extra travel it takes to get there. And if backcountry travel is your goal, it's a no-brainer. In conjunction with the adjacent Canadian parks, Wrangell St. Elias is the largest protected area in the world at 24 million acres. Okay, let's assume you decide to venture out our way. What then? The rest of this show will be devoted to the big picture, an overview of the park and its amazing topography. You can then click on the hike or float buttons for more details about your personal area of interest. But first, we should mention that right in McCarthy and neighboring Kennecott are some of the most fascinating day explorations and adventures available anywhere in Alaska. Hopefully you'll have time to experience both towns' frontier feel and genuine friendliness before or after your time farther out in the wilderness. Explore the links from our website to learn more about glacier hiking, ghost towns, mine tours, and other unique opportunities close to town. McCarthy is the real deal. It's where Alaskans go to get away. In fact, some of our passengers decide that although they want to experience the park's wilderness, they would rather have more civilized surroundings at night. So after doing a day hike or float at one of the many fly-in destinations we access, they return to one of McCarthy Kennecott's lodging options rather than camping out. From hostel accommodations, through bed and breakfasts, all the way up to full-service lodges, the friendly hospitality of the Wrangels is available at all levels of price and service. Depending on your previous experience, the wilderness portion of your trip can come with the services of a professional guide as well. All of the backcountry travel which we'll be describing here can be handled by folks with reasonable wilderness skills. But if you'd be more comfortable in truly remote Alaska with someone who knows it well, we can put you in touch with one of McCarthy's several excellent guide companies. Over the years, we found that different folks approach backcountry travel with varying levels of commitment. We've mentioned day trips already, a great way to get out there without being committed to too much load hauling or extended weather. The next level of immersion, base camping, does involve overnighting, but without the need to strike camp daily and haul all your gear to a subsequent destination. Wrangell St. Elias Park is so huge and varied that it's easy to spend days exploring from one central camp without retracing your steps, and still return each night feeling like you've discovered an entirely new world. We'll get more detailed about great locations for base camping when you click on the Hike button, where we'll begin to describe the diverse attributes of various areas of the park. Of course, the most traditional means of wilderness exploration does involve hauling your gear and following a route from one point to another. Backpacking in our park is as varied as you'll find anywhere in the world, from relatively easy route finding and rolling terrain to expeditions as challenging as polar travel or the Himalayas. We can recommend many point-to-point hikes based on your experience and stamina. And we haven't forgotten those of you who'd rather float than walk. Wrangell St. Elias includes some of the greatest wilderness river trips in North America. From flat water to wild Class 4 canyons, we can get you and your gear in position for anything you're ready for. From great day trips to a multi-week float from the toe of a Canadian glacier all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And again, if your experience is limited, we can hook you up with excellent local outfitters. Click on the Float button for more info. However you decide to explore the park's wilderness, day trips, a base camp, backpacking, or boating, it will all begin at Wrangell Mountaineer's office in downtown McCarthy. Kelly and Natalie Bay, proprietors, have been living, flying, and exploring the Wrangels for even longer than the 18 years of their company, and they work with a great crew of folks with a similar passion for the backcountry. Our staff's work week is even structured around the fact that the kind of people who work here want enough time off to get out there themselves. So we have plenty of information and knowledge that we love to share, not only about your specific destination in the park, but also how to have a safe time enjoying it. We'll be filling out an extensive backcountry itinerary with you, so that we're both clear on routes and pickup dates and locations. We'll also want to know your backup plans, contingencies for weather, and emergency gear. The office also has critical items like bear-proof containers and emergency radios for rent for a nominal fee. Satellite phones may be rented out of Anchorage. Okay, enough on the nuts and bolts. Let's look around and get an idea of what the park itself has to offer. Looking at the big picture, we see two main ranges of mountains separated by a broad river valley. The river is the Chitna, which begins as the Logan Glacier on Mount Logan in Canada and flows east to join the Copper River at the town of Chitna. That's about 50 miles of glacier, followed by another 100 miles of river. After the Chitna merges with the Copper, there's another 90 river miles as the combined flow carves a deep canyon on its way through the Chugach mountain range to the Pacific Ocean near Cordova. For much of its course, the Copper is the western boundary of the park. Speaking of the Chugach, it's the southern of the park's two major ranges. A number of our excellent destinations and hikes are located in the Chugach, which, as a younger coastal range, tends to be a little steeper and wetter, with beautiful hanging valleys, tarn lakes, and lots of glaciation. On the northern side of the Chitna Valley lies the Wrangell Mountain Range, beginning near the Copper River at Mount Wrangell and merging with the St. Elias Mountains just past McCarthy. Many of the higher summits of the park lie along this old line of dormant volcanoes, including 16,390-foot Mount Blackburn, source of the 27-mile-long Kennecott Glacier, which terminates next to our home airstrip. Equally great destinations lie in the Wrangell St. Elias, and a group doing day trips by air could easily visit both ranges on different days. But longer stays and hikes tend to stick with one side of the Chittenden Valley or the other, since there's a lot of flat, brushy travel and a very major river dividing the two. You'll get much more detail on our trips by clicking on the Hikes button, but in general they're all designed to keep you in the high country for the best views and easiest brush-free traveling. And don't forget the option of exploring by water. Many of our longer river trips begin in the Wrangells and end up visiting the Chugach as well, since with a boat, the Chittenden River is no longer a barrier, but rather a boulevard. Wildlife is just as beautiful, and often even more plentiful, when looking up from the water rather than down from a ridgeline or mountaintop. Click on Float for more info. Whether by foot or float, airplane access is the key to the park, and we have the knowledge and experience to help you make your choice and then get you there. Thanks for listening. We look forward to meeting you. Have a great trip, and click on Hike or Float for lots more info.